Hello, everybody, and welcome. It is Wednesday night, and this is Oracle Live TV. I'm your host, Leah Dunlap, the Oracle on Purpose. I'm super excited to be back with you live. I've missed you all. Hey, so tonight's show is jam-packed with some amazing people doing incredible things as always. So I hope that you're ready to come on in. Come sit down, tell us where you're from, and give us the goods as to whether or not you would like to be a guest. We'll talk more about that in a minute, but we really want you to take the time to sit with us, hear these amazing stories of the women that are going to be on the show tonight, what they're up to, and why they're making a powerful difference in the world and a greater impact on how the lives of the people around the world are being fed by the work that they do. So one of the things that I always like to share about this show is it's a little different, obviously, than a lot of shows you see out there with webinars and interviews, in that not only do we get our guests the opportunity to share what they're up to with you, but they're here to get a little insight from the Oracle about what their next moves might be or how they might make a bigger impact. And I don't want to leave you out, as you know. So remember that at the end of the show, we do our very best to save time so that you can ask a question of the Oracle as well. Now, if you've come into this show, somebody gave you a link or reminded you today to come and check out the show, and you've never been here before, let me tell you a little bit about myself. Like I said, I am Leah Dunlap, the Oracle on Purpose. I have been in the transformational leadership field for over 25 years. I know I barely look it, right? But the good news is that with that, I've actually been developing my gift and talent as an Oracle. I was born as an Oracle, but I found out when I was 14 years old that I had a gift that I could actually hear and see and get insights for people just by being around them. And as I brought that in and integrated it, aligned it with all of the skills and tools I gathered along the way in business, I learned that I could align that insight with business genius for other people and help them to actually have the impact that they were born to have in the world. So if you're here and you're watching the show and you have a question and you want to know how you could actually move your mission or your purpose forward, please stick with us, stay on the line, watch the show, and put your questions in the chat box, okay? So hopefully, if you're watching this, like I said, from a watch party, there's a link below it that will take you right inside the room, and that's where you can ask your questions. So if you don't see it, look around and come on over. When you do, you can actually use the word, you can just put, I'm going to do this so you guys can see it, Q&A, and then ask your question. Okay, so I will be able to see these after the fact if you put this in. So this will be my cue to look for you, right? So put Q&A and whatever your question is, you can do it at any time. You don't have to wait till the end of the show. But at the end of the show, we will go ahead and we will give away, we'll answer those questions as much as we can. The other thing, see, I had a teaser. The other thing that we do on the show, if you've been watching, is we like to play a little game called the Insight Game. And the idea of this is that we're really helping you take away the knowledge that you receive, because whether it's from me or from one of the guests, there's always great insights that kind of bubble up to the surface when we're talking about this great subject of change and movement and purpose and passion. So if you are suddenly struck with an inspiration as we're talking, then make sure you mark #insight and then whatever the insight is down in the chat so that we can actually acknowledge you for it. But more importantly, you might actually win a prize. So at the end of the night, we'll look through those and we'll grab somebody's name if we have them, and we will pick someone to win an actual prize, a little present from me. And tonight, my favorite prize to give away are these little cards. They're called Believe, other inspirational cards. And what they do is they're little pop-up cards. Where's my sample? Here we go. Sample. So little pop-up cards, really hard to see. And I've tried forever, but anyway, there's a quote, and they come in these great little cards. And so it's really fun. You can pass them out. You can take one a day and kind of give yourself some inspiration. So that's our prize, and that's the game. But more important than the game and more important than the prize are our guest. And tonight I'm really excited because this year we've continued to have such amazing guests sharing really incredible stories about who they are and the work that they're doing. And as an author myself, I always love having authors on the show because I know what it takes to kind of birth a book into the world and all of the passion and commitment it takes to do that. And we're a world where we love hearing stories. And I was introduced to this woman, the next guest, by a good friend of mine, Ben. And Ben was just telling me about this amazing story. And I was like, I would love to have her on the show. So she said yes. And here we are. So my first guest tonight is Mag Dimond. And in a minute, I'm going to bring her on. So get your pens ready. Get your pencils ready, get your questions ready, and let's bring her on and say hello. Mag, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're up to? Tell us about the book.
Well, I'll start with the book, and then I can backtrack and the book is about my life. So the book is a memoir that's based on a series of travel journals that I did. I've traveled really all my life to some pretty exotic places. I lived in Europe when I was a young girl, which gave me the bug to live in foreign places. And I started keeping a journal then, back when I was 11 years old. So sort of the seed was planted then, I think. And so the book was this compilation of stories, or it started out being a compilation of stories about different countries that I had visited. Such as Burma, Thailand, Cambodia, France, Italy. And then I realized that as I was writing these as essays, that my family were starting to show up and that there were stories from my past that started to show up. So I realized that I had to weave in my past. So I had to not only talk about my adventures in India, or Africa, but I had to show like why I was in these places, what was I looking for, what was I wanting to learn, and how did that relate to myself as a child or as a young adult, young person.
I love it. So I might have missed it. So and I want to make sure everybody hears. How does a young child where did that travel come from? Was it it sounds like part of that is your family story, but for you, those are some pretty incredible locations. So how did those locations come about?
Well, my mother, when I was 11 years old, my mother decided to take my stepfather and me to Europe, and we were going to live in Italy, and she had just decided this. She had an independent income. She didn't, she had a lot of freedom. So off we went, and we went and lived in Florence, and then we lived in Rome. So I was there for 3 years. After that, we came back. But by that time, I was intoxicated with what was different. I came back bilingual. I spoke Italian fluently. I was smitten. Then I go through the usual stuff of growing up and going to high school and doing, going to college and doing all that stuff. And then I got married very young. But I always wanted to travel, and so in the beginning, my husband and I traveled just to Europe together. Yeah. And that was sort of the more kind of conventional travel.
Right.
Yeah. And then later it became more adventurous as my life sort of took a dramatic turn. And my dramatic turn in my life was that I ended my marriage after 25 years and took up with a very eccentric, charismatic artist. and he was enamored of travel, and he knew I had money, and I did. And so we together sort of over time planned all these different kinds of journeys to take. And so we took a lot of them together. We went to, first time I went to Africa, I went with him. And I went to Southeast Asia the first time with him. So that was where the travel became more kind of exotic.
Right. I mean, well, first of all, just having returned myself from Italy, I just had a Master Creators event, alchemy retreat in Figlini Valdarno, which you might know is between Florence and Rome. And we went to both of those locations. So I could imagine that region would definitely put the bug in you as a young child, because it's magical for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, as you're talking about this and how you wove your family story back into the adventure story, what do you feel like as you walk away from this book? What was the purpose at the end? Because I know you said you started off with one thing, but what was your desire to bring to life with your book for other people who read it?
It was obviously more complicated than I thought it was in the beginning, and that's probably true with a lot of creative projects. In the beginning, I thought I was just going to impart my marvelous insights and, observations about different cultures, and people would be fascinated because people like to read about foreign lands. But when I realized that this whole life story got woven in, I saw that my driving interest was to tell the truth about my life. And I grew up with a very difficult woman, my mother, and I was really neglected. My mother was an alcoholic. She had a lot of money. She was very willful, and I really was I lived in the shadows a lot of my childhood, and I really wanted to tell the truth about that. And so because I lived around people when I was young who all of them sort of did not tell the truth, I became fanatical about telling the truth. I kept asking questions of people, even when I was young, that they didn't want to answer. And so when I go back into the past story, bits and pieces, I am teasing that out. I'm showing this sense of me, yes, the isolation, but the observation of what is going on and how it makes me feel, and how it makes me feel lonely and abandoned, and um, and just not loved. And
Right.
so I really felt I needed to tell that, because I think there's a lot of people who grow up in families. I mean, there's plenty of books about growing up in alcoholic families. Um, and they're all important because they help people spread their word. They help other people feel like they're not alone, all that. So, in that vein, that's sort of the way I am. I want people to understand that if you persevere and you keep learning about your world, and you just keep believing that you can make yourself into a good person, you can survive it all, and you can ultimately forgive the person that betrayed you. And I did have the help of a grandmother who was sort of my guardian angel. So,
Aw.
not my mother's mother, but my father's mother. She looked after me for many years, and loved me to death. And if it hadn't been for her, I might never have written that book. I mean, I never have evolved in the way that I did.
Isn't that amazing? I love that piece too, that we don't know, like, the angels around us, right? Until we kind of look back and see what kind of
Yeah.
experience they've might have even saved us from without us knowing. So it's beautiful that you have not only this hindsight, but wanting to share. And I agree with you. There are as many stories as there are people, and there are as many readers, right, that want to hear that story because it either validates or inspires them, as you said, to really move forward in their own lives and say, yeah, if Mad can do this, I can do this. If she can look at this and find a space, as you said, for forgiveness, that's incredibly powerful and moving to me that you've gotten to that place. Can you share a little bit more about that? Like,
Well, yeah,
during the process of the book, or outside of the book and then shared in the book, or both?
the forgiveness thing is a very important piece. And it's because I was angry at my mother a lot. And when I was in high school, I had, very palpable hatred of her. And I sometimes felt suicidal, and just, I was that angry. And then I started to really drink terribly, and I was just acting out my anger. And when I left home and got married, I thought that was going to be the solution. I thought that was going to be where I found love. Well, it was love for a while, but then it wasn't. So, I mean, I married a guy that didn't really want to get married in the first place, and we managed to stick together for quite a while. And but it wasn't until, you know, quite a bit later on, when I discovered Buddhism, that I realized the practices of loving kindness and compassion and forgiveness were the ways I could help myself kind of bridge, you know, go over this bridge and not feel this hard-hearted thing about my mother, because my mother was just a limited human being who couldn't do any better than she did, sadly.
Right. And yeah, exactly. You know, I think that um, there's a place where we can come from observation when we write, right? Like we can be kind of objective and like see things in a different way when we're writing about them than when we're experiencing them. Did you find that to be the case? Like when you're writing these stories, did more of that insight, kind of the external objective insight, come into play?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and there's an amazing opportunity when you look back on past experiences, to if you travel into those past experiences, which takes a little bit of concentration and a little bit of, and I would say mindfulness as well, you can re-experience what it was like to feel that sense of abandonment or the sense of fear. And also there were moments of joy. I mean, there was certainly, it wasn't all awful. I had a lot going on in my life that was quite exciting. I had a great education, and I had this great relationship with my grandmother, and I had a best friend who has been my ally since we were both 4 years old. So I had these good positive energies in my life. And I went back and I really tried to re-experience those um, those feelings, those times, you know, with those people, and then from that bring it alive, you know, bring it back into onto the page.
Yeah. And so this is recent, right? This book coming out. So when did you finish? I guess my other question is just kind of a guilty question. How long did it take for you to complete your book?
2 years.
2 years.
I worked with a online course. People I know in Taos, New Mexico, where I used to live, were writers, and they started this course online called Write to the Finish, and they had writers come and be part of this for 9 months. It was a 9-month course, and the purpose of the course was to help you finish your book. And I took it twice. So I took it for 9 months, and then I took it for another 9 months, and then I finished the book.
I love it. I love it.
It was great.
So now that you're there and you're on the other side and having finished it, do you have the writer bug now too?
Do I have the what?
Do you have the writer bug as well? Are you ready to write your next one?
I'm yearning to actually sit down and start something different. But right now, I'm of course embarking upon a bit of a publicity campaign for the book. And, you know, it just came out a week ago, and there's a lot of different things where I need to kind of present myself in front of people or do whatever, you know, and learn how to be a public person. And
I love it.
Yeah, so that's kind of on the horizon for the next, I would say, next 8 months at least. And then but I do have other ideas in mind for books, and I am very happy when I write. I feel like I'm my true self, you know. I feel like I'm with myself. I'm in a safe place. I don't always like what I write, but it's, since I've been doing it since I was 11 years old and I'm now 74, it's a pretty familiar feeling to sit down and write.
Yeah, it's probably like an old friend, right? It's
and
like
and to be with yourself. You're just
right.
really
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me, as you're looking at like the next whatever is coming for you, what question might you have of the Oracle to help guide you or share insight about what's coming next?
Well, I think one of the things, I mean, I'm kind of concerned about creating a public persona out of myself, and I don't quite know how to do it, but I suspect with practice I'll be able to do it. That's probably not a question. I think the question is how to, and I think it's true for all writers, it's pretty classic, is how you sustain your your creative impulse, how you stay true to it, you persevere. Because I'm somebody that's given up on a lot of different things in the past, other things, and I knew I had to write this book. It was like, and I promised I'd write it by the time I was 70, and I did. Um, so I guess I'm scared that once I start something else, it'll be hard again to stick with it and keep believing in it and kind of keep inspiring myself. That's, and then that, like I say, that's pretty classic for writers.
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting because I think the first thing you said is kind of a question, which is how do you be this person? And yet it's so there was an easy answer for that, but I think for you so the first answer, just kind of from my coacher hat, is like you be you. Like that's
right.
Me. And then from the Oracle, I get the idea that it kind of ties into your next piece, which is stay connected to the part of you that is that 11-year-old who has a story to tell, right? And bring that in both places. Like there is a magic to when you speak about the adventure side of this, that you like the light in you comes back, right? So it's like, oh, you're that, because even as you talked about, Tuscany and being there, you tap back in to the very thing that brought you here in the first place, which is the magic of that exploration and adventure. And I think to the answer to both of those questions is really tied in that. Like for you to say, what would that 11-year-old in me think about this conversation? What would she think about being on TV and talking to people or having people ask for her autograph?
Well, the 11-year-old would be very grateful because the 11-year-old then wasn't listened to very much.
Right. Yeah. So this is definitely
giving yourself voice. And
right. It's definitely giving that voice. Yeah. And I think that for you, especially, it's giving it a voice that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because when you spoke on the truth, that really resonated and brings a tuning fork to like how you show up. You will best be served moving forward by holding space for yourself to be true about how you show up, about what you say about the book, about what you write from this point forward. Like, and I think as you kind of alluded to, sometimes people that write a second book, they rush out to write the second one because, okay, well, don't want lag time, or, you got to keep going. And that's a yes and, right? Yes, and you in particular will need to make sure that it's honest, whatever it is. Yeah. So it can't just be part two. It's like it really has to be like honestly brought to you that this is the next book. This is the thing that is being born. So that would be the thing that she's bringing to you, is the idea on both sides to stay true and also connected to that 11-year-old who brought you here, because she brought you here on purpose so that you could share this message for her.
Well, she was, the 11-year-old and now the 74-year-old is a person who really wants to survive and wants to thrive and wants to, wants to learn. And that's never changed. I mean, that's been the way all the way through. I've made some mistakes along the way, but the drive has always been the same. If I ever lose the desire to learn anything and to discover some, mystery or look into some mysteries, I'd be very sad, because that would be a departure from that 11-year-old and what's coming
right. Yeah. And that's the piece that would unravel it. Like that's the unraveling of it all. So it's just to stay true to that. And last insight shared is it's in relation to friends. So it's the phrase that came is keep your close friends close right now. So well, not just right now, but that's what she said. Keep your close friend. That's hard for me to say. Keep your close friends close. And I guess the now is like whoever is close now, keep them close to you. Right. Keep counsel with them. So that will be a piece of it as well. Yeah. Okay. Has that helpful to give you that little piece there? Awesome.
That's great. Yeah. Great. Well, I like thinking of the 11-year-old too, because I had a good friend who's known me for a long time who said if I could just go back, there was a time when I couldn't imagine myself as a young person. I was so divorced from that. I cut off the period. But writing the book, of course, pulled me back there and allowed me to be that young person again and to feel that stuff. And kids are so real. I mean, that's the thing about them, you know?
Yeah. Well, and as you said, that was her way all along. Right. Yeah. So everybody, thank you so much, Meg, for being here. I'm going to try and get rid of this one so I can get the other one to show better. So for those of you watching, the good news is that Be Live has made some changes. That's the good news. And so I'm still learning some of where they put things. It's kind of like your house when people move things around. So right below me now, hopefully, is scrolling the link to check out more about Meg and the book. And I'm also going to put that in the chat so you guys can find it. Here it is. And so if you want to know more about her adventures and her story, please do check it out here so you can learn more at this link. There it is. Should be coming up on the screen for everyone. There it is. Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here, Mag. I appreciate you. And I wish you nothing but raging success with the book, and that every experience of being out there in the public for you is better and better each time.
I'm sure it'll get easier as I go along.
Thank you so much for being here. All right, everybody. Thank you, Meg. Okay, so our next guest will be up in just a minute. But as I mentioned, as you guys are probably seeing, today we are in a new version of Be Live. And so some things aren't where they used to be. So if you're watching this and you're like, hey, I can't get in, I'm so sorry if that's the case. Please try again. But I'm going to go ahead and put the link. I'm going to do this cleverly. All right. So bear with me. Right. I'm slowing this down. So for all of you watching, please be patient. And I think that if we put the link in here, you should be able to come and see us. Okay, so I see that there are some people reached and watching. That's great. So if you're still watching this, please come on over and check it out. We are live, as I said, and we have a next guest coming up in just a moment. And remember, if you're coming on and you would like to be a guest on our show, we actually have a really easy way to do that. So you can just go on to this link. I'm just going to come up here really quickly. There we go. So it's bit.ly/OLTV-guest. And if you use that link, you can actually go fill out the form. And if you qualify, we will get you all the information about how to schedule on a upcoming broadcast. And then you too can come out and share what you're up to, the difference you're making in the world, and get a little insight from the Oracle yourself. And if you'd like to join us in the conversation, either here or outside in Facebook and chat, apparently now it's working so that you can actually chat and we can see it. So come on over. Don't be shy. Tell us who you are. I know that we've seen a couple of people popping in and on from other watch groups. So just say hello when you get here, and we're going to get ready for our next guest. Before we do that, just a reminder, for those of you watching, that we are live now every Wednesday at 6 p.m. So you can come and watch us every Wednesday. Set your clock, or better yet, follow us at Coach Leah Dunlap, the oracleonpurpose.com, or Oracle Live TV on Facebook, and you will get the link sent right to you when we get going. So either way, always the opportunity to come check us out, share, and ask questions of the Oracle. Our next guest actually was introduced by a former guest. So you never know when someone you know is watching, okay? So our next guest is working on an incredible foundation, and she is actually giving back, as she says, to her people in her home. And so I want her to come on and tell us all about it. So I want you to welcome with me Roxana Trium. See, I told her I was going to do that, by the way. I should never say that. Roxana, thank you for being here. Why don't you say your name again the proper way, and then tell us what you're up to.
Thank you so much, Leah. It's Roxana Trium, and thanks for having me here today.
I'm so glad to have you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
So tell us, I know that we talked about the fact that you're a life coach, but that you really want to talk about what's on your heart and the project that you're working on. So tell me a little bit more about that, and tell our guests who are watching.
Absolutely. So in 1992, I had an opportunity to come from Africa to United States. And like most say, that this is the land of opportunities and where dreams come true. And I built my dream, I built my empire, and I had a family. And it was a time for me to go back. So a little bit of background is I had left my country due to the war in 1970, 1975, 19, all the way into 1992. So we came here as an asylum. So it's not until I established my business here, I felt very comfortable. I got to visit my grandmother in 2010, and I was sitting under the mango tree having a cup of tea on 110 degrees hot Sunday. And she was telling me all about the kids who were across the street who were playing, and they were actually learning under a mango tree. And she had told me, she said, "Do you see those kids up there?" And I said, "Yes." You know, as I came from that country, everything seemed the norm. But, you know, again, it's her hopes and dreams. She said, those kids are learning under a mango tree. And because they're learning under a mango tree, there is no school. And you should be the one to build a school up there. And I said, you know, I love her. And I said, no, I cannot, it cannot be me. And I don't think I'm the one who to do it. But what she did is, again, she planted that seed in my mind, and she said, if not you, then who? And I said, maybe one day when I become rich, I'll come back here and build a school. And she's like, if not now, again, she goes, then when? You know, and time passed. A few, months later, she passed away. And those words kept haunting me back in my sleep, in my dreams, in everything I did. If not you, then who? If not now, then when? And it's not until 2017 I started researching how can I go back into this tiny village in Mozambique and to be able to build a school, because the children are learning under the mango tree. And so, yeah, so that has been the journey.
So the grandmothers are with us tonight. I love that, because I always think that's interesting. Like on this show, there always is like a theme that we don't know. It's like a hidden theme, and it pops up, and it's definitely the grandmothers. And I also love that your grandmother's like, I know exactly what to say, and just putting that grandmotherly nudge right to you.
Yes.
Saying, I don't know. I think you can do this. I think it's so beautiful that you took it to heart too. So it sounds like you guys had a really special relationship.
Absolutely. And, I really think that, there's certain people who come in our life who plant the seed. And I feel like the people who have passed on, they're still with us everywhere we go. They're with us. We just need to talk to them, and we need to be still and listen to that voice. So the journey continues. So this year I had an opportunity to take 11 volunteers with me to Mozambique in a small little village called Tangwa to start the construction of a school, which is going to help about 200 children from learning from the mango tree into a structural building with a roof and some windows, and which will eliminate all, sitting under the tree when it's raining, or when it's raining, they can't go to school. So we'll give them a purpose to look forward to learning.
That's fantastic. So I'm curious, how did you get all of, like, she gave you a pretty tall order. How did you start? Like, where did you start when you finally said, okay, I'm going to do this? I'm just curious. What was that journey like for you?
I started talking about it in 2017. I just started sharing with all my people in the community. I volunteer a lot. I have a wonderful community here in Pacific Northwest. I just started asking, would you like to do this journey? Would you like to do this journey? And of course, we had a lot of people who wanted to go. Unfortunately, we could only take a limited time because we had to think about transportation in Africa. We're talking about third world country. How many can they fit in the bus? So we took 11 people. We had 12 people, but we ended up having 11 people. So it was a baby step. Like, one step was like, I got the people who are committed, and then I had connections because, again, I go there every other 2 years, and I have family there who helped me put all the pieces together. But it was really some of the pieces I didn't have everything in order, but it was learning through the process. It was really trusting, knowing that there are people who are good and the people who are there to help us, and everything kind of connected.
I absolutely love that point, which is we don't need to wait until we're ready to start. And I think that that's a great example. Like, you just did what you could in front of you with a grand vision of where you were going, but you just had to keep moving step by step and have faith that the things that you would need or have to put together would come into your sphere. So I feel like, again, there's a theme there too of, like, as Meg was saying, like, the angels around us who are there. Do you have any of those people that kind of stand out that shepherded this with you that you'd like to acknowledge?
Absolutely. I always say that you can never do things alone. You always need people. And I'm going to say this by the African proverb: you want to go far away, you go with the people, and you want to go fast, and you go alone. I have some incredible people who came into my life at the right time. I cannot thank them enough. And I know they know this. I'm very grateful for them because they also have shaped me who I am. There will be days I'll be so scared, but they got me. They know it's like, you know what, we're in this together. You're not alone. And knowing that, trusting that, again, there's good people out there, and just hang on to those people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you think your biggest challenge was as you really started saying yes and moving forward?
My biggest challenge is I am not a detailed person. I have the brand idea, and then trying to put those pieces together. Like, I could see the project going flowingly, the product coming together, but I had a hard time putting the pieces together. Mm-hmm. And that's where I said, okay, that's where I missed out. That's where this person is a really good person to detail. So I'd ask that person, do you want to step up? And then I was like, this person is really good with money, so she's going to collect the money for everything and the budgeting. So I asked the other person, can you do the money, the managing part? So, and I'm really good at that, finding the good in the people, what they're good at, and bringing them up. Like, there's a word that, always find people who are smarter than you and hang out with.
Right. Yes, that is definitely a good tip. I mean, I'm going to hashtag insight that one myself. Always find people that are smarter than you to hang out with. It is true. It is true. There is definitely some point to that. So tell me right now, what is that grand vision? I mean, you got the one school started. What is, like, ultimately, what do you feel like your mission is really about?
So right now, the mission, again, the nonprofit Fremina Foundation, which is in honor of my grandmother. My grandmother's name is Fremina, so we named it Fremina. The mission is empowering children through education. Like, I lived in 3 different countries in Africa, which is, again, Africa is mostly third world country, and education mostly is off. That's all they have. So the vision is to be able to build 3 different schools in the 3 areas that I lived in, which, again, it doesn't have the schools in those areas, and empowering children through the education. And the first country right now we just started this year was in Mozambique, which is the birth country I came from. And then we lived in Malawi in the village. And Malawi is going to be our second country we're focusing on. And I already have people connecting with it, working forward. And then the last country we're going to focus on, Zambia. We're going to focus on Zambia the last because we're going to focus on this village right now that is, they send off young girls to get married. So that's the hardest, biggest project. So by the time I'm hoping I get there, I'll have all the lessons and learned. I have the community and the people,
Right.
and I'll be empowered enough to have the strength, because that'll be probably the most, I think, that is going to be the most challenging one, because we're going to be hitting the culture, the laws that's there, what we believe coming from outside United States, to saying that's not right in their culture, where they're marrying off girls who are 12 years old.
Yeah, it's sad when we hear about places that are stuck in some of those old paradigms, and how we can come in, not necessarily as the white knights to save it, but to, like you said, change the culture and create some sort of structure around that. So as you're looking at this grand vision, which is absolutely beautiful, and I can really see, like, schools popping up like mango trees all over, right? I mean, I think that's the beauty of it. So first of all, the Oracle and/or your grandmother, I don't know who wants to know, are you making sure that you plant a mango tree at each school? Because if not, that's a suggestion she's sending down to you. So speaking of which, so if you look at this grand vision, what is your question? What can the Oracle do to help as far as provide insight or guidance on this next step and leg of your journey?
I believe what has been a little challenging, which I think everything is a challenging for a purpose. It's a great way to build community, bring people together to help you, has been the fundraising and learning to fundraise, and the funding. So that has been one of the things about sharing the core value of the Femina Foundation and what we're doing, and just sharing the message. So really about funding. If anybody has resources, I'm a learner. I love to learn anything. Workshops that's coming up that I can schedule on my calendar, I can put it on there. So also my support team can learn how to do it. So I'm always an open mind to learning to do things better, so I can help the people.
Right. So when you talk about funding right now, what are you, like, grassroots funding right now? Are you just getting individual donations?
Mm-hmm. So right now we have had people using birthdays, like on Facebook. I love Facebook. Using
Me too. Facebook.
Thank you, God. People are using their birthday to fundraise. Like, there was a lady, she raised about $400 through her fundraising Facebook for a good purpose. She used our videos, and she used Femina Foundation, and that has been people have been sending in donation through the fundraiser. So that has been helpful. I'm also putting our second annual fundraiser, which is coming up on October 13th as well. It's going to be in Tualatin. I brought a lot of art from Africa, from people who are locals, who are brought all the thing. I brought them, they donated them, we're going to be auctioning it out. So they all came from the village with a good purpose as well. So all local artists. So
I love it. So there is, it sounds as if the next level for you is to keep the grassroots growing as it is, and start connecting for you specifically, to start being in, what I'm seeing is like in rooms where the big donors might be. So and I keep seeing, like, thinking of like black tie events and things like that, for you to really share your message about what you're doing one-on-one. Like, for you to do this, like, the grassroots still needs to stay there. Mostly because, honestly, the what I see of that is it's a bit foundational, but it's creating the movement, right?
yes.
The small donations create the movement, and that's like all right here. But really, in the next probably 6 months or so, you're going to need to start moving into places where your presence is what connects with people with deep pockets, who are looking for really important projects to donate to. Also, do you guys have like a pitch deck? Do you do like any pitches on your project so far? Have you?
No, so right now we just have took the video, we talk a story, what the project is going to cost. So we have we're working already. We already have a projection how much it's going to cost. So we're focusing on the fundraisers and raising that amount.
Yeah. So there's something about like having like, I see you like standing up, like going over the video. So I don't know if you're like now doing it more removed from you, but it's kind of like you up there speaking with the video, not just the video on its own. I don't know if they're already doing it or not, but it feels like that's where the biggest draw will come for people to really get engaged. That will be able to make a big impact financially. Yeah.
Okay.
How does that land for you?
That feels really good. And I feel that's where my career is also public speaking. And I just need to shift the message, just talk about Femina Foundation and bring the message with it and the videos, because again, we're visual people. We want the stories behind it. We want to see we're connected with the stories. Yes.
Yeah, but I definitely see you standing up and the screen behind you of the video playing. So it's like that combination of those is really what's most beneficial. And organization. It seems like this is like in front of organizations. So
yeah.
And I would say probably, I was going to say like, not like Greenpeace, but of that ilk. Something to do with educational organizations.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just testing other, as people are watching this, like, what's she doing? I'm conversing to see like putting names on that group I see. And it's like, they're educational, but it's not like teachers union.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, when I say educational, I mean, they're for whatever reason, there's some sort of group that's invested in education.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the people that you need to get in front of.
Mm-hmm.
And which then, you know, to me, when I get information like that, it's more of a way to say, it's not like, oh, I'm only going to talk to educational related organizations. It's more like, oh, when you do, okay, this is the time to step up and really do it, because that's where it will move you forward. And it's further down the line. So I don't know if that helps you relax around it, because it feels like, just so you know, it's not tomorrow. But it is probably in the next. So if that was 6 to 9 months, this is a year or so.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like as far as what I see in front of me, and people who are watching me do this thing, I see the current time here, which is where your grassroots is growing, and it's building, and it's nice. It's a nice nest. Feels really funny enough. It looks like a nest. It's like all these nice little soft. There's like a lot of soft energy around it, and I think it really is, because it's what's building the love and the community and all of that. Are those little donations. So that's great. So it gives you kind of mass of supporters. And then there'll be some bigger, like I said, organizational or foundational donations, and those will only come through your face to their face and sharing the story.
I can see that.
Yeah, good. Yeah. And so, I mean, it's kind of like, you know, tending to that nest, keeping that energy there, and for you to figure out a way to be in the right rooms and be ready to present the story yourself from your own heart, and with the backup of the videos and all of that. Mm-hmm. So that you can really give them a feel, not only of what's happened so far, but that grand vision, the long vision. There's something around fundraising people. And it may be, what I get is a sense of, it's interesting. Like, I don't know if you're doing any of that yourself, like trying to navigate it, but you kind of need to take that hat off at this little level. Okay. and kind of like almost like step into the CEO role versus fundraiser role. Does that land? I see you smiling. So it's kind of like I don't know. It's a funny feeling of like, get your hands out of this so that you can go over there. So I don't know if you have, because I heard you mention that. So I was like, but she has somebody. So if you do, stop doing their work.
Okay.
Okay. Let go of that so you can go do this. Does that make sense more?
Yeah.
Okay.
So focus my energy being out there, sharing the story instead of doing all the details work here, trying to collect all the stuff, which is actually use the energy getting up there in front of people. Yeah, that makes so much sense. I needed somebody to give me permission to do that. Step into the
yeah, it's always funny when she gives me these. I'm like, oh, I get to be the one to share. Yes, but there's someone either already in your organization. Like, you just need to put someone in that place and trust that they'll do it, and then let them do it. Which I get. I mean, it's your baby, it's your vision. It's really hard to do that, and just from a coaching perspective, it's like you can't do that forever, and you will never grow beyond that. Right. So you have to trust that you've built something really good and juicy down here, and it's doing its thing, and somebody can oversee it and manage it, but you need to go on and look for those big opportunities. Yeah. Okay.
With that.
Good. So do you have any other questions, or you feel complete with that answer?
I feel so complete.
Wonderful.
That feels really good.
Okay, great. Well, I'm glad it feels good because it all sounds amazing. And so for everybody who's watching, I want to go ahead and do my little thing where I can hopefully find this now. Yes. I remember we did this. Okay, so I'm going to put, let me see if I can copy it. I'm going to put up for Roxana the link so you guys can all find out. And just one more time, I'm going to have you, nope, come on now. Where'd it go? Paste. Oh, shoot. All right. I can do this. So Roxana, why don't you tell me the name of it again? So let's spell it out. Make sure I'm putting this up the right way first.
So it's Firmina Foundation. So it's FIRMINA Foundation.
There it is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you would like to, for some reason I can't seem to copy that right now, but I will make sure it gets in the screen. If you would like to get on and find out more about this on, oh, what just happened? See, that's why I love live TV. I do. Okay, we're going to get rid of that, and we're going to put it over on the right spot. All right, everybody. I love my watchers because they're like, this is hysterical. There we go. FIRMANI, Firmina.
FIRMINA, Firmina. Yeah, Foundation.
All right, let's see if I got it right this time. Is that it?
Yep.
Yay! Okay. There we go. So if you would like to know more about this, please do check out the link. It's also going to be, if you're like, I can't write that so fast, simple bit.ly/Firmina Foundation. The link is now in the chat. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, more importantly, for the work that you're doing. And FYI, that wasn't a joke. Your grandmother would like some mango trees. Like, I'm not joking.
Okay, I'll send you some pictures our next trip. We'll plant some mango trees under the new building.
She was just like, hey, that wasn't a joke.
I like that.
We're very clear around here not to make the grandmothers angry. The grandmothers, they have good juju. We want it to stay with us. All right. Thank you again so much for being here. I appreciate you. And I am so glad to have amazing guests. Awesome, right? Always awesome. So if, again, you would like to find out more about the Firmina Foundation and the schools and keep an eye on whether or not they have mango trees next time, you can go ahead and go to the link below, or inside the chat, there's a link as well. And if you'd like to be our guest on a show, please go to oraclelivetv.com or bit.ly/OLTV-guest. And we will see you next time. So thank you all for joining us. Thanks for watching the replay, because I know a lot of you are watching the replay. And please share the show. Let people know about it if you'd like. And come on back next week on Wednesday. See, I shouldn't have said that. Oh my gosh, can you guys believe it? It's October 2nd. So Wednesday, October 2nd at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. We will be right back here doing it all over again with some more amazing guests. So come on back. We'll see you then. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.